Gentrification. Gentrification. Gentrified.
The change.
The change forced me out of my apartment.
Must take the A train if you wanna go to Harlem. Come on and take the A train. You find the quickest way to get to Harlem.
Particularly African Americans didn't really at first live in Harlem, moved downtown, and they built the train system up, and so then African Americans started to live, migrate uptown, and then became a predominantly African American neighborhood. A very vibrant neighborhood because segregation was still in effect. We had like restaurant, shopping areas. The Teresa Hotel was the famous one. All these like centers of socializing for African Americans. The way that gentrification has changed all of that is that now we have the same businesses like downtown, and although they might say that they're making community efforts, they're not community based. First of all, owned by African Americans, and they, in my opinion, don't really have the same type of interest at heart. They're huge corporate entities, and so what you can find downtown, you can find uptown, and it makes things less special.
As far as I know the history, Harlem's been infused with African Americans since the 30s, since the 20s.
At that time, I was like the only white person like anywhere around, and it was rough. I mean, just because the economy was depressed, and I think, I'm sure that a lot of the tenants there, I mean, they've been there their whole life, and this was their, their home, and then here these people are coming in and trying to push them out and buy up the units in the buildings.
Because of the influx, I would say, folks who live downtown moving up to Harlem, the rents went up. So I was paying $800 a month for a one-bedroom apartment, which was equivalent to that apartment. The landlord raised the rent to $1,200.
Saying, another 10 years and this would be a great place to live, at that time, it's like.
I do remember living in Harlem when we didn't have Pathmark, and we didn't have a lot of like supermarkets and things, and it's so much more convenient now. All these things are benefits and things that you enjoy, but at the same time, like, it's at a cost. It's coming because these luxury condos are coming. People who are going to be buying these condos are coming, and these are what they expect. They expect to have this type of vacancy.
Around this time in the summer, they have picnics and drumming. The other community that's coming in went to the police and said, "Got to stop that drumming."
I think the culture's being pushed out. I mean, because you have a different class of people that are moving in there, and they have different values and different lifestyles.
Their friends are not in Harlem because their family's not familiar, their friends are not familiar. They're just moving in their base, maybe in the fact that they don't want to pay the crazy rents downtown.
Black America has today is because of Harlem. I mean, so many movements were, born in Harlem. Music and, clothing, style.
You're changing the culture about people. This is what we do.
They're moving us out of Harlem. Moving out of Harlem, I love Harlem, and I was very sad to move out. Very sad. It's more of a class thing to me than a race thing. It's not just like, white people think, Harlem is a new spot. Let's move there, but they can afford these rents and these condos.
That class versus culture.
You can experience the consumer aspect of Harlem, but you won't be experiencing living it as a resident if you're not of a certain economic background, period.
That's a really good point, double-edged sword. I guess you have the good and the bad. Had the money not come into Harlem, right, we would have lost all of the beautiful, beautiful buildings and the history. I mean,
well, no, in the 80s, they were offering brownstones for $1. Walking around, I knew that you could get one of these brownstones for $1.
You had to be in the loop of real estate to really understand what was going on at the time.
They knew before there was a lot of change, and they could have stopped it.
It's not as though the community was just all alerted that all these brownstones were going up for $1, and people were just like, nah, I'm going to keep my dollar.
Investors started to find brownstones up.
We had a chance to get one of the apartments, but we took this tiny little shoebox railroad apartment on 44th Street.
But the city was so bad at that point, nobody wanted it.
I didn't like having to act crazy every time I went out of the apartment.
And now they're flipping these properties, and now they're worth millions.
Really?
saw the new luxury apartments being built on Fifth Avenue, and they're starting at $600,000. I hope it's going to hit a cap. I hope it doesn't come back down to the point where Harlem was 15 years ago, as opposed to now, but it's going to have to level up.
The projects that are still remaining, they're probably going to tear those down and build all these condos, and it's going to be a huge displacement of people.
They did offer us money to give up your unit, but no way, Jose.
I can't afford to pay $1 million for an apartment. My neighbor paid $2,700 for the same apartment that I have.
Sometimes you'll be paying $500, but your neighbor will be paying $5,000 in rent. You have to have a certain amount, or a certain percentage, I should say, of tenants in the building that make, they're low income tenants.
Now, New York State, like she mentioned, is a law which basically states you have to have a certain income bracket inside of your residence. There was a lottery for this building. If you won the lottery, you can buy a property here for, let's say, about $300,000. If you do not win the lottery, prices start at $600,000 for 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms, up to $1 million. Diagonally across the street, projects. Now, the difference in New York City from the haves and the have-nots is only a block away. That's a city block, not a country block.
He's not a resident of Harlem, but he has his office here at Bill Clinton. He can afford $600,000 luxury condominium.
Uneducated people that didn't know what we could have had right now, but those that who are educated know, but they made sure they got their little piece.
Now, wouldn't that be amazing if they had been taught that, and that they were the ones that were coming in and bringing the money into places like Harlem and West End?
At this point in this time right now, it's kind of like a too late situation. It's already happening. It's already in the process of going on.
And that way, you don't lose the culture, and you do make the neighborhoods better for, your community.
Brown building with the gray on the side, a lady lived in there. She sold it to a guy for $70,000. She didn't say, I'll sell it and you gotta give me a floor, a piece of property for him, because uneducated.
We didn't buy anything, didn't save money, didn't band together to do anything. So here it is. And everybody is coming in, they're smiling at us. They're taking Harlem away from us.
They're not taking it, we gave it away. We're not educating each other and not holding it down for each other.
Harlem will not be Harlem anymore, as we know it.
Harlem is going to be in the history books in about 10 years. You're going to be reading about a Harlem in the history books.
You have your house and you see someone they start building this gorgeous mansion across the street from you, right across from you, and they're telling you this is for you and the betterment of your community, but somewhere in the back of your mind you know that it's not. It's like this feeling where people are cooking this great meal, but you're not going to sit down and eat that meal because you're really not invited to the party. That's what it feels like to live in Harlem, because we see these luxury condos being made and everything, but we know our neighbors, we know our family, we know we ourselves are probably not going to be able to afford to live there.
Columbia is trying to buy a parcel of land. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to stay where I was living.
At 200 West 123rd Street. I'm standing in front of 126 West 123rd. I've been in here for about 10 years.
My thing is, if brothers stick together, white people won't come inside and taking that over.
Offer opportunities for people to come and be diverse and not going to be that way, and we'll end up getting pushed out.
I appreciate it. And if I had a lot of money, I would go in too. It is so nice over here now. Every Thursday we have concerts and all stuff like that at the state building. And then they made a lot of new stores that we had never had before. And I think that's a good choice for us. Nice.
Have you seen Bill Clinton?
I haven't seen Bill Clinton, but I've seen him on TV.